Welcome to QuickBites, public speaking tips and techniques you can digest in 5 minutes or less. Here's your host, Peter George.
Welcome to Public Speaking, Your Competitive Advantage, where you discover public speaking tips, techniques, and ideas that help you increase your impact, influence, and income. I'm Peter George. In this episode, you'll hear 7 ways to implement pauses in your upcoming presentations so you and your audience members will have greater interaction, even when they can't respond out loud. When you're developing a presentation, I have no doubt you give thought to the words you're going to use to convey your message. But how often do you consider the pauses you'll use during those talks? My guess? Seldom, if ever. Hopefully that'll change when you learn how that often ignored pause can transform what otherwise would be a rambling monologue into an engaging and interactive presentation. Here are 7 ways to skillfully include pauses. 1. Pause at the beginning of your talk. Taking 3 to 4 seconds before speaking allows you to initiate eye contact, establish confidence, and develop engagement with your audience. Do this for your next few presentations. It might seem awkward at first, but you'll quickly see how effective this technique really is. 2. Pause after you share a point. Give your audience time to internalize and digest information. You know what you're going to say. You know how it relates to your message, but your audience doesn't. If you don't pause, your listeners will be confused and either disregard what you said or try to figure it out and miss what you're going to say next. Either way, you lose them. 3. Pause instead of using fillers. Inserting fillers is prevalent because many presenters are uncomfortable with silence, and then they fill in that silence with unnecessary sounds and words, including you know, right? But it's not really the fillers that the audiences find so irritating. It's the lack of silence. As you just learned, pausing allows your listeners to internalize and digest what you said. However, when you use fillers, you interrupt their thought process. Doing this once or twice won't necessarily harm your presentation's effectiveness, but when it becomes noticeable, it can be as unnerving as fingernails scratching a chalkboard. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. Remember this. People regularly complain about how often a presenter uses fillers, but seldom do they complain about how often a presenter pauses. 4. Pause for emphasis. Pause before sharing a word, thought, or idea that you want to emphasize. This allows your audience to lean in and listen, knowing they're about to hear something noteworthy, exciting, or even shocking. And to add even more significance, pause directly after saying it. 5. Pause after asking questions. Asking questions, actual or rhetorical, is a powerful yet subtle tool for influencing your audience. But for this to be most productive, you must provide a sufficient amount of time for your listeners to answer the questions in their minds. When you don't allow this time, your questions serve little purpose, if any. When you repeatedly skip this time, you risk annoying your listeners and consequently lose them altogether. 6. Pause when advancing to a slide. It's natural to start referencing a slide immediately, but it's not very effective. Instead of asking the audience members to listen to you and decipher the slide simultaneously, pause for 2 or 3 seconds. This gives them enough time to see and understand the slide, and then when you begin speaking, the slide supports your words. 7. Pause to invite interaction. Do you want to not only engage your audience, but get them involved in your presentation? Then pause to invite them to insert a word or finish a sentence. And you can make this invitation readily apparent by accompanying your pause with a gesture. Singers do this to perfection. They sing a line and then point out to the audience, prompting them to sing the next line. You can do the same. There they are, 7 opportunities for you to implement pauses in your upcoming presentations. Use them and you'll gain more confidence. And your listeners, they'll experience higher levels of comprehension and retention. Because as Mark Twain said, the right word may be effective, but no word was ever as effective as a rightly timed pause. This brings us to the end of another episode of Public Speaking, Your Competitive Advantage. If you like the tips that you learned in this episode, go to petergeorgepublicspeaking.com and download more than 50 free public speaking tips. And be sure to join me for my next show, where you'll discover more public speaking tips, techniques, and ideas that give you a competitive advantage and help you achieve the success you've been striving for. Until then, please rate, review, and subscribe to Public Speaking, Your Competitive Advantage, wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Be happy and healthy, my friend.
Thank you for devouring another episode of QuickBites. Tune in Monday when you'll hear another episode of Public Speaking with Peter George, and again Thursday for your next episode of QuickBites. Until then, remember, when it comes to speaking in public, you've got this.